NRL Fantasy Crisis Meeting, round 19. We are live and we're doing it a bit differently today. It's my birthday, so I'm getting these recordings done a bit earlier tonight, which means we can't have Biz on from New York, unfortunately. But good news is I'm going to get through this quick. I'm going to get through the important information. I'm going to hit you with the news, and then hopefully we can all nail it for round 19. Now, first things first, I want to report on some of the news that we've got here. Nico Hines is out for 8 weeks. So syndesmosis injury at training, also a broken leg now too. 8 weeks mean he is a firm sell. You got to get rid of Nico Hines. Next up, Tolu Kola. He's out for 4 weeks. Turbo goes back to fullback. Kola, 4 weeks plus. He'll probably come back at center, if at all. So he's a sell as well. Those two are my top priority sells. Third piece of news here is that we've got, who have we got? We've got Latrell Mitchell out for 4 weeks. So it's looking like it could only be 4 weeks. It might be longer. If South Sydney are out of the finals race, it will definitely be longer. So keep that in mind. But Latrell, probably a sell too, I would say. And then there's a couple of other options here that we're looking at too. But I think they're the three pieces of news that come through first. Now, buy, hold, sell. Let's get into this here. Bit different this week again. Not that many players available. So I just thought I'd go through this list and just scroll through like you can. So what I've done here is I've gone to the stat center and I've just ticked the box for show players with available status only. Right? So these are the guys. I ranked them based on price. Let's go through. Dave Feeder, must have. Got to have him. He is my top captain option this week. Really good matchup against Parramatta as well. 64-point average. Doesn't need to be talked about much more than that. Ewan Aitken, really good option here too if you need a center or an edge back rower. 55 average is exactly what he is. 772K, it's expensive, but you're paying for what you get here, and he's the top center in fantasy. So with Nico Hines being out, you got some spare cash. You need those positions covered. Go get Ewan Aitken. I love this option. Next up, Damien Cook. Now, we'll talk about Damien Cook here, but the big thing with Cook that I'm concerned about now is as much as he's a great fantasy option and potentially the best scorer in fantasy, there is a risk that his minutes will decline as the year goes on. So no Latrell Mitchell now for South Sydney, which means they're probably going to fade a bit. They probably won't be as effective without Latrell. They might fall out of the finals race. And that means that Souths are going to start looking at 2025. So if they do that, they got Marmazella sitting on the bench there. He is their hooker for 2025. They're going to give him some minutes, right? So Cook could go from being an 80-minute player to less than 80 minutes as the year goes on. For that reason, 750K, I liked him as a buy a month ago. I don't like it so much now. I'd rather have Harry Grant for 100K cheaper, so I'm skipping Damien Cook. But if you already have him, don't worry about it too much. You've already gotten big scores out of him. You're ahead of the game, so enjoy that. If you don't have him, I'm not buying him personally. I just think there's too much risk in that. All right, moving down the list, Kaloma Tangi. So he's plus 100K this year. He's at 756K. It's pretty expensive for him. It's too expensive if he plays in the edge back row role. That's the concern here. So as much as Kaloma Tangi is a beast at the lock role and a potential captain option for you this week too, there's a risk that Cam Murray goes back to lock. And in my view, Cam Murray is the best lock in the NRL, right? As much as he's been out hurt, all that sort of stuff this year, I've got him as the best lock in the NRL. He's right there next to Paddy Carrigan and then Isaiah Yeo as well. So with Kaloma Tangi, my view is he goes back to the edge back row role. That means a lower average, so sort of high 40s instead of this high 50s average he's had lately, which means at 756K, it's not great value. Saying that, he'll score great this week, and if he stays at lock, which if you think he'll stay at lock, then you can go and buy him because he's still decent value if he stays at lock. But that's the big question. For me, I don't think he will. I think he's a bit too expensive to take gamble on. I would rather go for some of these cheap players too. Now we're at the top of the list here, and I actually think that this is the week where we want to focus more on those cheapy options. So I'm going to switch it up here and just go to the bottom of the list, and then we'll go into the mid-ranges because I genuinely believe you either want to be getting a gun or a cash out this week. And a cash out can be anything up to maybe the mid 300s, right? Because you're getting all that cash back in the bank. But my view is that you want to save cash this week. So buy these cheap players, get scorers for this week, and use all your money next week to go buy Payne Haas, Isaiah Yeo, Connor Watson, Nathan Cleary, all these types of players. So let's have a look at the cheapies here because we'll do buy, hold, sell basically on these guys. So Humphreys, not interested. Very short fill-in for Delhi Evans. Solomon Afeatape, 14.4 points, average 7 points last week. Says enough. Skip. Failalo, no go for me. I'm going to rip down the list here. Mason's on the bench, so I'm not super interested. Lob, you could look at Lob. I don't think there's a lot of job security in that Tigers backline, so I'm not interested in this, and not a lot of tries on offer too. LeBlanc, maybe at some point, but I don't think this is the year for this. So look, 230K, it's not the worst. Matt Arthur, meh. This is where it gets interesting though. Jake Tungo, 234K. So they've got Mulatalo on the other wing spot as well, the brother of Ronaldo Mulatalo. So I look at this, it's Lorenzo Mulatalo, by the way, but I look at this and I go, 24 points last week, nearly had a couple of tries, 234K. He is the stronger job security winger at Parramatta, and he's available at wing, fullback, and center. They're going to be near full strength in terms of their back line. Forward pack is going to be a bit light without Junior Polo, but I look at this and I think, yeah, this is the guy, right? So both positions covered. He could hold the spot for the rest of the year. He looked solid enough. He worked hard. I like the idea of Jake Tungo this week, so I might be buying Jake Tungo. And at that price, he's a cash out, right? He's $4,000 above the minimum price. So again, I'm looking at that. I'm thinking this is a great option, right? Because if you trade someone like KO Weeks to Jake Tungo, you're banking, what is it? You're banking like 400K, right? So next week you can make whatever trades you want. You can go Collar to Cleary, like. Yeah, well, if you have a bit of spare cash as well, right? But you get what I'm saying, right? So save that cash and don't worry too much. This week, roll the dice. He's up against the Titans. Who knows what could happen there? He could score some tries in that game. He's on a wing where Sivo normally scores tries against the Titans. So I love this option. Tungo is one of my favorite options this week. Dual position, pretty good job security, minimum price. Go and do it. Power wingers score tries. I love this option. We'll keep rolling through here. So give me a sec, just reversed. To keep rolling through, so Tungo is an option we love. Geimer, I actually really love this option as well. And he's got a picture, which is a bonus, right? So he's a young guy. Look, he's playing lock this week. So starting lock for Parramatta. He came out last week and he put our forward pack to shame. So I'm a big Para fan. I love our pack. But I'll tell you what, this guy came out with an intensity I have not seen from anyone in a Parramatta jersey in a long time. So starting at lock, who knows what minutes he'll play. My guess would be about 40 minutes in this game. I reckon he converts 40 minutes into 35 points. He looked awesome in that game. Now, he's currently only available for the edge spot, so you only get him if you need an edge. But again, 10K above minimum price. I really like that. And he'll get middle eligibility at some point pretty soon as well. So for Geimer, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. He had a few missed tackles last week, so I wouldn't be too worried about those where he was kind of sprinting out of the line, just trying to get the boys fired up and put a shot on. And he did put a few shots on, but he also copped a few shots and got a few misses. So that's where the score did drop off a bit. But overall, great cash out option. I really like this if you need an edge forward. All right. And why is it doing this? Oh, my God. So Moser, nah, not really interested. The minutes aren't there. Chan Kum Tong, nah, no minutes. Mapapalangi, nah. Like Gagai and Best will come back soon. You know, it's unlikely that he'll keep the spot. I think Sharp would be the backup winger anyway. Murdoch Masilla, not interested. Moretti could be a shout. So Moretti at 256K. You couldn't get him over Geimer is the problem. But if you needed a middle only, if you wanted to cash out at middle, Moretti's a guy who can turn a few minutes to a lot of points. And Junior Polo is out for the year. So this could be an option. Mama Zealous, you could do this and hope that South's pull out of the finals and he comes good in a month's time. But again, it's too soon. It's such a gamble. I'm not super interested in this. Hamlin Uele, that Sharks bench has 4 props. No, the minutes aren't there. Royce Hunt and Colquhoun, the 2 others, right? So yeah, no, it's not going to happen for those guys. Fino for the Tigers. All their middle forwards are coming back right now. Twile will come back soon as well. So again, not interested in him. Matt Dury, if you wanted an edge, I prefer the other option because we've got Bryce Cartwright on the bench. We've got Sean Lane on the bench. You know, there's a lot of risk to these minutes for Dury. So yeah, that price is nice, but overall, I'd skip him. I'd go get the starting lock instead of the starting edge back row. So that's an easy choice. Sailor, it's only 1 week. And his scoring hasn't been great, so skip him. Croker, nah, we're not doing that. Marshke, 1 week starting at half. He was great there last time. So if you're in a draft league, I actually really like this idea of getting Marshke. You should be able to get him for free as well. You might not even need to use a waiver on him. So yeah, I like him in drafts. It's 1 week though in regular fantasy, so no interest in that. Bahulu's had that spot for a long time and hasn't really done too much with it in terms of fantasy production. So as much as I like him as a young player, not a fantasy gun. Liu, no. Tupuatu, no. Oates, no. Porter, no. Johnson, I was kind of interested when Latrell came back, but Latrell's out now, so no. Bromwich, no. Simpkin's interesting, so let's talk about Simpkin for a sec, because I like the idea of getting Simpkin, 42 points last week. They had a few injuries. Lawton moved to the edge back row spot. Lawton is in the edge back row spot again, so worth considering. But I'm hearing whispers that Lockie Croker's back to training and he's looking good. So Jake Simpkin might be a guy you spend money on and you buy, and he only plays for you this week. So my plan was to get Simpkin, but now I'm hearing this news. I'm starting to think that maybe I'll just get Tungo instead as my cash out, save an extra 100K, and not worry about Simpkin. That's what I'm considering. I'm not as hot on Simpkin as I was before, but now I'm sort of thinking I'm going to play without a hooker most likely because I just don't like any of these options. I want to have Reed Marnie and Harry Grant as my hookers on the run home. So that's left me in this sort of situation. All right, next up we have not Cheapies Paul. We'll get to him though. He's a hold, by the way. I like him starting. Karapani, 1 week. Palacia, no, he's had the role. All right, Jai Gray, another option I really like. So 330K, awesome price. He's a guy who's got the role for 4 weeks minimum. Latrell is out for 4 weeks minimum. That's the key thing to note here. Latrell could be out for longer as well. We don't know with this sort of injury. So I think Jai Gray at that price, playing this week, half and wing fullback dual, you might be light at half, right? You might have lost Nico Hines. You need a half this week. Jai Gray is that guy. I personally need to get a wing fullback, so I'm going to be using him in that spot, but he's great for other options. So Jai Gray, almost a must-have. The other thing is I predict that he's going to be sort of a 40 average type of guy because South Sydney are looking better. They're going to feed him some better ball. The Pack's playing better. Dolphins this week is a game where it's going to be a bit of a shootout, so he's going to get plenty of ball. Look, Jai Gray. They're actually my 2 buys, by the way. So I need wing fullbacks. I'm probably going to go with Jai Gray and Tungo as my 2 buys. But if I needed a forward, I would go with Geimer instead. All right, we'll keep rolling down the list here. I hate that it keeps resetting. So Gray's done. Staines, no. Jones, nah. Arthur's, nah. I mean, you could do Arthur's if you wanted to do Arthur's. He's going to keep his spot most likely, but you're back in Brisbane. Reynolds is back in round 22. He's not a full-blown keeper. I wouldn't do it. Crossland, he's starting, I guess, but probably not. Not really at that price. Alec, no. No. Sharp. Sharp is a firm hold, by the way. If you have Sharp, he will play this week and maybe next week as well. So Ponga might not back up from Origin, which means Sharp could get another run at it. All right, Milne, nah. Tapau, nah. Bostock, nah. Fenai, nah. Lehigh Opawati goes on to the wing for Manly this week. He will be on the wing until Kohler comes back, I would expect. Then Kohler will return and Talau will go back to the wing. That's my prediction there. So Hopawati at that price on the wing, nah, not interested. Cheekham is vaguely interesting at 388K, but just the scoring is not great. The job security is not great either. So I'm personally of the view that you skip this one. Tom Burgess, no. Dan Safidi, no. Maybe a few years ago. Hands, I mean, you could sell Hands if you wanted to. The Hands minutes were all right last week, so you could stick with him too. But I actually don't mind the idea of selling him for a Jai Gray, for example. You pocket 60K and you get a better scorer. If you're planning to use him as a half, that's what I'd do there. If he's your only hooker, keep him for this week and see what happens next week. All right, Gagai, no. So Gagai was a guy I was pretty hyped on in draft leagues, so I grabbed him in my Supercoach draft and a couple of other drafts. But the issue with him is Latrell's out now, so who's going to feed the wingers at South? They got the playmakers right, but Latrell feeds his wingers in a different league, and Inglis used to do it as well. But Souths tend to have those big ball running fullbacks who draw guys in and feed the wingers. And Gray is just not of that same gravity as Latrell Mitchell, which is, nothing against him. All right, Sipley, 395K. Actually, that price is better than I thought it was. You could do it if you were really desperate, right? He will score well this week. Nathan Brown's the other option we'll talk about too. So I'd probably go Brown over Sipley just because of longevity. But Sipley needs less minutes to score well, so he could be an option too. Don't hate it, don't love it. It's up to you. Walter, I'd probably rather go for a cash out, by the way. Save the cash, get Moretti. You save 150K. That is so much money for the run home. Look, round 19 is 1 round. Round 20 to 27 is 8 rounds. Focus on the 8 rounds is my advice. All right, Walters, skip. Ezra Mam, I mean, you could, but no, I don't think so. He's just not a fantasy producer, right? So you're never going to start him. What are you going to do? Ray Stone, skip. Duncan, skip. RC, skip. Saab, skip. I'd rather Jai Gray or Tungo as much as Saab is a guy who can score big every now and then. Can't, skip. Couchman, skip. Bullimore, skip. Hetherington, skip. Kepi, skip. Rogers, I like Rogers in draft leagues. So if you're in a draft league, I think he'll do well this week, next week, the week after, the week after. So he's got about a 4-week window. But 410K is very expensive for a guy who, he's going to average sort of 45 points. I think he'll be pretty dominant as a half in that team. But skip this one. Averillo, skip. Kennedy, definitely a skip without Hines. I mean, he might take on a bit more, but Can skip. Mulatalo without Hines again. If you got these guys, you hold them this week, but I'm not buying any of these players. Piakura, that's minus 14K. Man, he's been something. 12 points last week. The objective decision is you hold him for this week and play him this week and then do something next week. But if you wanted to trade him out to Geimer this week and you have 13 players already, I like that trade, right? I'm not saying Geimer is a world beater, but Geimer has the same range of outcomes as Piakura, and you pocket, like nearly 200K? Do it. Take the 200K. Use it next week. Buy a real gun. You're not going to be playing guys like Piakura next week anyway. Right, Offa Hangawi is vaguely interesting in draft leagues, but not really. Lawton in the edge-back row role, a bit too expensive. Waddell, it's too temporary. I'm not super interested in it. LOA, skip. Clemmer, it's over for him in terms of fantasy relevance. Flanagan scored like 9 points last week. We're not doing that. Selle's out injured. Price is another one we could talk about here. So with Will Price, and by the way, this is how I prepare for these videos normally, but I just thought today, let's talk through all the options. But Will Price, 442K, half and wing fullback eligible. 47-point average, has a try in that, but 49 points last week. Had a few plays that were pretty dodgy, so threw the ball over the sideline once or twice, and a few drop balls. Look, he's a young guy. It's not a diss. It's more just I'm flagging these things because they have a lot of backup halves. They have guys like Cogger, Gamble, all these sorts of players. So if I'm looking at Newcastle, there is a vague concern that Price could get dropped at some point. But at the same time, he's been playing fantastic. So I don't mind the idea of getting Price. They have a buy in round 21, which is pretty friendly as well. You can work with that. But if I was looking at Price versus Marzu, I'd probably go Marzu over Price is my view on this. All right, Molo, skip. Atkinson is vaguely interesting. I can actually show you guys the numbers here because if we go to footy statistics for Atkinson, and again, you're getting the live here basically of me doing research here. I promise, it's my birthday, all right? You gotta go. I'm rushing a bit today. For Atkinson, let's go 70 plus minutes. Played 5/8, 36 average. And then we go Hines. So with Nico Hines, he was a 27 average. Without Nico Hines, 50 average, right? So a 60, a 50, and a 39. That 60 was a bit different. So in that 60-point game, so let me scroll down so you can see it. In that 60-point game, have a look across here. We can see the kick meters, right? So 538 kick meters in that game. That was because they had no other half. So Brayley actually played half and McInnes played hooker in that game, which meant he was the only half for them. He carried the entire load. That 60 points is not an accurate reflection of what's going to happen. Then against the Eels, 199 kick meters, and against the Broncos, 183 kick meters. This is a more fair reflection of what's going to happen next to Braden Trindle, I would say. So that's not ideal. You then come across, and against the Eels, he had the try assist, the line break assist, 5 tackle breaks, right? So that beefed up the score to 51, and then the 39-point game was minimal attacking stats. I guess he got 26 tackles. Yeah, look, I view him as sort of a high 30s, low 40s kind of guy. I don't think the numbers are super fantastic. Whereas if we go to Trindle, let me show you the Trindle numbers. So with Trindle, average overall is 28.8. Let's just go with minutes over 70 because that's what we're going to do. So 39 average for Trindle is his regular average. If we throw Hines into the equation, when he plays with Hines, he's a 30 average. So it's about 10 points less with Hines. Whereas without Hines, and by the way, this is footystatistics.com. So you can check this out. This is free. Like it's an awesome app. But without Hines, 47 average, right? So you've got a 30 average with Hines, a 47 average without Hines, 17 points difference. He is a total pod. He's owned by basically no one. He's priced at 34. So if you get 47 out of him, that's value, right? 469K. It's a borderline, like it's not a keeper, right? But it's a guy on your bench that you're not that upset about. And when we talk about, players like Sipley and Brown, for example, I kind of rather a guy like Trindle, where you're going to get that 47 average, hopefully. And he's going to be really good. But the other part of this to look at is I want to see here, because if we go with Matt Moylan, right, when he played with Matt Moylan, okay, the average is only 43, right? I had a theory that he was better with Matt Moylan because Matt Moylan sort of lets the other half sort of take control. So yeah, Trindle, let's see with Atkinson. It's really only this year, right? But with Atkinson, I guess this is going to be Atkinson in different positions. That's the tough thing there. And Atkinson on the bench as well, but a lot more keep meters, right? So yeah, I think Trindle's a great option, even though that average is 38.3. But Atkinson played in different spots. So like last week, for example, you got the 41. Atkinson was playing on the wing, so it's a bit hard to read. But yeah, no, overall, I think Trindle's a decent option. That's basically what I'm getting at here. Atkinson, I think, is the one I would skip. Trindle's the one I'd have a look at. All right, Nathan Brown. Nathan Brown's half decent. 59 points last week is huge. He was the option before round 16. It's too late now. 445K. What you get, break even -4. Look, he could hold this role and keep playing decent minutes, but actually, I'm rethinking it a bit. Maybe he could hold this role. If you want a middle who, this is a tough one, right? So if we go into the stats, I'm not gonna BS you guys. I'm just having a look at it live. Like, let's go into the stats here because the recent games: 56 minutes, 60 minutes, 66 minutes, 51 minutes. This is OG Nathan Brown numbers, right? So you got scores of like 23 is not great, but then 49, 57, 59. This is OG. Look, Paseka's out for a bit longer. So that's good news for him because Paseka eats up some minutes. Jake Trbojevic is out for Origin, but Gerbo will be back. But he got this score with Gerbo, so maybe there is a chance. I don't mind Nathan Brown, actually. Look, I don't like this price. So paying 450K for a guy who could be a guy you keep, might not be. He's probably not going to be a full-blown keeper. He's not guaranteed to keep that role. It's very risky, but he could be a big scorer for you this week. So if you really need a middle and you want a guy who you think is going to score 50 this week, Brown will score you 50 this week. The problem is later on, he's going to cost you trades, I'm almost certain of. So it depends on your team. I'm not going to do it, but I can see value in it. I'd personally rather just cash out and cop the fact that I'm going to get less points this week and have more money for the real guns in future weeks because you're not going to be starting Nathan Brown in round 20 or round 21, round 22. You don't want to be starting Isaiah Yo. You're going to be starting Payne Haas, Connor Watson, these types of players. So I'd skip him, but he has upside. So if you want to do it, go and do it. He's going to make some cash for you 100%. All right, Ravalawa, skip. Bula is kind of interesting, but it's too late for players like this. Too inconsistent. You can't trust him. I wouldn't get him. Katoni Staggs, exactly the same boat. He's a skip for me, but if you like him at that price, I don't know. Look here, Bradman Best was at this price at some point, and he went on a tear. I think Best is a lot better than Katoni Staggs, so that's the hard thing there. But if you like Staggs a lot, you could make a case for this. I personally don't think he'll do it for fantasy. I think he has good games in him, but it won't be a fantasy tear. Oregon Kafusi, skip 100%. Remember when he was a hot buy? That was always such a trap. Cam Pereira, I love him in real life, but couldn't get him in fantasy. Moale, skip. Sami and Moale, by the way, it's just too much to pay for Moale, obviously. Sami's on the bench, so skip. Fanua Pole, people are interested in this. It's too much money for a guy with so little job security. Skip. Pangai's starting this week. Interesting in draft leagues. If you want to get in a draft league, I don't mind it. But in terms of classic, skip. Sloan, skip 100%. Bromwich, skip. Willison, it's too late. Look, plus 200K. You got one more big week out of him, maybe next week. It's over. Trindle, we talked about 469K. I actually quite like this option. 47 average with that Hines in the past. He'll take over as that dominant half next to Atkinson. So if you are low on cash and you want a guy who averages mid 40s, he's a guy who's going to average mid 40s. It's as simple as that. Sean Lane's on the bench, hard skip. Hazleton, skip, needs tries every week to score well in fantasy. Nikarima, firm skip as well. Blaze Talangi, it's too late, 100%. Then Rudolph, skip. Feeder, skip. Whiten. I mean, if you wanted to get on Whiten, now's the time. 482K is a little bit less enticing. I mean, a lot of us got on at low 400s. It's now a bit pricey. I'd rather go get Tungo next week rather than getting Whiten. But at the same time, no Latrell could be good for Whiten. He could take over more of that ball playing, get more ball in his hands a bit more. So maybe it will be good. I don't know. Latrell sort of opens things up a bit though. So when you have Latrell on the outside, Whiten has more channels to run through, as was shown by Parramatta's embarrassing defense last week against him. All right, Verrills. It's too much for the rest of the years, but the minute's been good. Look, 47 points. You could make a case for Verrills. Again, it's another one you make a case for. I'm not going to do it. It's a gross price. Like this time of year, you don't want players at that price. Safath, yeah, we're getting into that mid-range territory. So I'm going to go back up all the way to the top, and I'm going to go to the top guns again because these are the players that you want to target. So we talked about these players here. Little, too expensive. He's 50K more than Harry Grant. To put that into perspective, right? I'd rather get Harry Grant next week. Lucas is named at center, so don't do that. Keeney is plus 414K. If you're a believer and you think he can be a keeper wing fullback, go and buy him. I just can't bring myself to do it, so I'm not going to. Lockie Galvin, I like him. Keep him. Don't buy him. Nakora is one that you should not buy this week. So Nico Hines is out. Also, we talked about Nakora when he was about 630K 2 weeks ago as a big buy option. It's too expensive now, nearly 700K. Don't get him when you can get Ola Kawatu for cheaper, who we're going to talk about soon. Or you can also get, Gus Crichton next week. You can get, Dave Fafita as that top option. Nakora is not going to be that guy going forward. So without Nico Hines, I think his prospects are hurt. Farmworth, I wouldn't buy him right now at that price, but if you have him, hold him. Plath, exactly the same. Wouldn't buy him. He's named at hooker this week. He's going to score fine, is my guess, but we don't know what that role is. We don't know if he's going to play a Connor Watson role. He plays some lock as well. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen with Plath. So if you've got him, hold him, enjoy the score. I think he'll make a lot of tackles. If you don't have him, don't buy him, is my answer. Olakau'atu, big shout here. So minus 54K, not in the Origin team anymore. He's 100% a guy that I'm adding to that watch list. Now, with Olakau'atu, he is a real pod, right? So not many people have him. If you're buying him, you're expecting him to be a bit of a keeper for you on the run home. 661K, it's a good price to pay for a guy like him. I predict he would be more of a mid to maybe high 50s type of average. I think he's very similar to an Eli Katoa in terms of his scoring. Bit more dangerous as a ball runner, a bit less effective in terms of finding tries off kicks and that kind of thing. But Olakau'atu's a beast, man. He's an absolute beast. So if you want to get on him, if you like Manly for the run home, I like this option a lot. I wish I needed an edge back row because I'd totally go buy Olakau'atu, but I don't need one. Tokamanu, hold, but don't buy. Don't sell yet. Hold for one more week and then sell for Yo, Watson, Haas, one of these guys. Firma, skip, playing center, no way. Coruscant at that price is okay. Not super excited about it. I'd rather go get Harry Grant for the same price next week. Hastings, nah, mid-ranger. Fuller, too late. Campbell, if you think Campbell's a full-blown keeper, get Campbell, right? That's the breakdown of it. If you don't think he's a keeper, then it's a waste to trade at 632K. But if you think he can be that keeper and average 54.5 points, which he is now, then yeah, definitely go get him. My view on it is that there's too much insecurity in the role and in him for this trade to look good. So I look at this and I think, look, the injury, so the hand, obviously, and he's had a few other injuries. The fact that Brimson is the 18th man as well. Where does Brimson play? Keeney's been unstoppable too. So I worry about the fact that maybe, I don't think Campbell makes way, but maybe he does. Or maybe he moves positions or whatever it is, right? The other thing is this recent tear at 5'8" is not the norm for Jaden Campbell. So he hasn't actually been this effective at 5'8" in the past. So again, I think the upside is a bit limited. I don't think he's going to be as high scoring as he was over the previous few weeks. I would rather go get a cash out, save the money, buy some real guns later. That's my view on this. But if you like him as a keeper, get him as a keeper. He's cut price. That's up to you, right? That's your interpretation. Dylan Brown, hold him for one more week, and then you can sell after that. It's been a disaster recently. Garrick is a decent option to look at buying. 615K is a fine price for him. Turbo back at fullback is good news for him as well. Look, he's good. Dual position, fantastic. Tommy Turbo it's hard not to call him a trap, right? Like he isn't a big fantasy scorer and he has those injury risks as well. It's an accident waiting to happen with Tommy Turbo. So I would skip this one. But if you want a super pod, like he would be on the pod section if we were doing it in normal format right now, then go get Turbo. That's your option there. You can get Turbo if you want to get Turbo. It's just risky and the upside isn't that big. There was that 1 year where he averaged like 90 points, but other than that, he's sort of a 45 average guy as is shown by his average right now. So I would be skipping him myself. DeBellin, hold for one more week and then sell next week. He's been a disaster through Origin as well. John Bateman played 80 minutes last week, which is good news, but I don't like him as much as some of the other options we talked about. Olakau'atu's better, and Fafita is way better. Cartwright got benched this week. Now, if you're a Cartwright owner, you've got a few options. One, play him off the bench. He's played well and scored well off the bench before. No guarantees he does it again, but there is that chance. Two, cash out. So you go get Geimer, for example. You pocket yourself, 350K. Save that for next week. That's my favorite option of these two. Third option is you trade him up to an Olakau'atu or someone like that. It's pretty cheap, and you're getting a much better player. So look, that's a good option as well. If you don't have Fafita, try to target Fafita. If you can't, then Olakau'atu or Geimer are probably the two options that you should look at there. You could also look at Ewan Aitken as well. That's the other option. And play him in the edge back row spot this week, and then play him at center going forward. Dewey is a firm skip playing center. If you played 6, I'd love him. Ricky, skip. Arrow, delayed surgery a bit, but skip still. Penasini, hard skip. Parramatta not playing well. Pierce Paul, hold him for one more week. And Penasini, hold one more week as well. If they have a green dot, you're mostly going to hold them one more week, as long as they're starting. Sewer is interesting. So Sewer can go on runs where he averages 50 points, but I'm not super hyped on him compared to these other options we talked about. Cody Walker, too expensive. We talked about him at 400K. He's now 600. Adam Elliott, skip. Eisenhuth, hard skip. Brayley, definitely a skip as well. I mean, he's a bit cheaper than he was before. Scored 35 last week. It's just not there. Jensen, you are too late. If you got Jensen earlier, you're a genius, but it's too late now. Brian Kelly, skip. He was cheap earlier in the year. Frizzell, yeah, that price is pretty attractive, but just the minutes aren't consistent, right? So yeah, 47 last week. That's sort of what he scores, 565K. I can't bring myself to do it. Olakau'atu is within 100K. You got to do that instead. Madison's interesting though. So Madison starting in the edge back row role. He is, and if you want to see some numbers actually, let's have a look at it because I think everyone forgets how good Madison used to be in fantasy. And he scored you 53 points in 70 minutes last week in the edge back row spot with no attacking stats as well. So Madison, whole average of his career, let's just jump down there, is 48.2. Pretty cool. If we go by position, second row, and we go minutes over 40, let's say, then in the second row, his average is 54.2, right, in 75 minutes. He could be a borderline keeper for you. The other thing with Madison is he's priced at a 40, so it's a bit expensive now compared to what it used to be, but still at a good price. Probably looking at about 10 points of value. Let's say he's a 50 average going for the run home. I don't mind this at all. If you want to get on Madison, middle and edge eligible, underpriced by about 150k. He's a great bench guy because he can cover both those spots for you. Yeah, he's automatic. I like this option. All right, Cleese Haas, skip. Matala Mariner, skip. Fainu, too late. Luciano, back on the bench, no go. Isako, I mean, he's kind of guy you buy at the start of the buy period. I wouldn't buy him now. He's not a full-blown keeper. Katoa, skip. Brooks, skip. Ramian, skip. Wilton, you could look at him. He's potential value. So Wilton, the problem is his break even is 61 points, right? So he's got back into the starting role. 545k is cheap for him. He is theoretically a close to 50 average kind of guy. And Paulie actually on NRL.com was sort of hyping him as an option for the run home. 0.5% owned as well. Could be value. Could be value at that price. I'm probably not going to do it. Oh, so not probably. I'm definitely not going to do it. But if you really wanted a cut price guy and you're really running low on cash and all that sort of thing, then you could look at him. Other option is he's probably available in your draft league for a trade at a cheap price. So you could look at targeting him in a trade as well. O'Sullivan's on the bench, hard skip. Safidi, skip. Nichols, no, I'm just going to keep scrolling. Obviously, Talau is the GOAT. He is the legend. And guys, let me know too, we're late in the video now, but we're looking at a potential new mascot for this series. So Tommy Talau is not that guy anymore. Look, 34.4 average, 38 points last week, 536k. He's a bona fide fantasy option now. So Pierre Kerr is probably the guy, but let me know if you have any other options that you want to be the mascot of this this episode. Right, Lemuelu, foreign, skip. Iro is a guy we can look at trading next week, but not this week. Marzu's a pretty good option. 515k is a bit expensive, so we like them more at 450k. It's still fine. It's probably the last week that you could do it. Do I think he's going to go off this week? Probably not. They're a bit under strength, but next to Ponga, he could be a keeper potentially. If you think the Knights are going to go on a tear and Ponga's going to go on a tear, then this is a great buy. If you don't, then it's not. For me, I'm personally opting for Gray and Tungo over Marzu because I saved myself 250k or 200k or whatever it is, right? So that's what I'm opting for, but you can take Marzu as well if you like him. All right, keep going through here. I'll talk about anyone else that's worth talking about. There is a chance that Gutho lights it up. So 57 last week, 250 run meters. He looked good in that game for fantasy. Issue is that Blaze will probably steal some fullback at some point, so probably wouldn't do it. Smoothie, expensive. Yeah, down. I think we're sort of at the bottom here. So let's finish on Talau and talk about captains. Captains for this week. Probably Dave Fafita is that number one option. You could look at Lockie Galvin as a wild option. Who else is there, right? Like Ewan Aitken is a really good option this week too. Damien Cook is a decent option. My view is that Dave Fafita is that best captain, and it's 100% locked in. Like he's going to be that guy. He's up against Parramatta this week, who have been sloppy. Whether he's up against Madison or Dury, it doesn't matter that much. They both guys will get in front of him, but I think he's going to pop it open a bit. He'll be mad about Origin as well because he should be in the Origin team, right? But hey, that's my view. I think Dave Fafita is your best captain option. If you don't have him, I would break my team to go and buy him. Go get Dave Fafita. He's a keeper. He plays round 19. He's a captain this week. If you have a pod captain, let me know who they're going to be in the comments as well, because I don't mind a pod captain. This is the week to do it. But my view is it's firmly Fafita. Anyway, guys, that is buy, hold, sell, done and dusted. We'll be back next week with Captain Roulette as well. So last week I took Pappenhausen, who scored 62, and Biz and Rob did it for Biz. He took Kohler, who scored 51, I believe. So we both had some pretty good captains at a cheap price, but we'll be back with that next week. Anyway, good luck this week, guys. Let me know your trades in the comments. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.